My name is Marikah, and I'm a designer, I'm an artist, and I'm an educator. I teach classes. And I made these videos mostly for my students who take my felting classes, for the beginners to understand what's it all about, so I don't have to repeat it over and over at the beginning of my class. So it makes sense for you guys to just watch this video, like series of videos. It will be a few more, and just to learn just general ideas. So at the class you're already prepared and know what we're doing. So again, felting. I don't want to invent anything. I don't want to say anything new, because there are lots of good books on that, and there are lots of good resources already online and everywhere. But again, for my students, I want to understand the difference between different types of felting. So when they are signing up for the class or for the webinar, they know what to expect. So here's in front of me is a pretty nice book. Lots of beginners like that. It's by Kristen White. It's called Uniquely Felt, and she raises the same question and tries to explain people what is felting is about. So let me just read you a couple paragraphs and we'll be all set, so I don't have to make up my own words, because somebody's already made a pretty good job on that. What is true felt making? Felt is defined as a non-woven cloth that has been pressed or matted together without any internal structure, stitches or weave. Felt making, also called wet felting or traditional felting, is an Asian process that involves these actions, beginning with pile of loose wool fibers, adding a little soap and water, pressing the fiber until they hold together as a cloth, and then working the cloth to shrink and strengthen it. So there are other types of felting except wet felting. We call in the United States, I know that lots of people practice fold knitting, when people take wool, knit a big item, and after they throw it in the washer or do it by their hands in hot water, the object shrinks. It can be purse, it can be head, and lots of people, I just see it at the craft shows a lot. And when I say that I'm a felter, somehow most people think that this is what I'm doing. I don't do any knitting. I work strictly with raw fiber. Not just raw, but I mean, it could be processed, but it's a fiber which wasn't twisted, which wasn't weaved, which wasn't knitted. Also, there is such a thing of a needle felting, which I'm going to explain it to, which I'm also teaching. We'll also have lots of fun doing projects using needle felting. And I always suggest all people who are interested in felt learn all type of felting at once, so you can combine it and you can be more flexible in whatever you're doing. Well, so what's the main secret of felting? So the main secret of the main magic, like I would say when I teach younger children, and I like to take 2 pine cones and say that our hair have scales on it, and when you wash, add a little bit of water, warmth, they're nicely open like a pine cone. And there's a other hair next to it, and you start irritating them all together, they just stick to each other, right? And do they stick? Yeah, they stick. So this is what happens with hair. So when we take, now you have to know my first term, piece of roving. This is roving. This exact roving came to me from Italian company DHG, where they're really good in combing and processing and coloring Italian merino wool. it comes to me like that. So when they have lots of colors, and I'm a reseller for the company, and I usually provide people, my students, with all the materials during my classes, and after if they're interested. Anyway, so I pull the piece of fiber and I lay it on the table, on my surface, whatever I'm using for the certain project. And when I add like water, and I add a little bit of soap from the bubbles, tiny bubbles make here kind of attach a little bit better, I guess, so open the scales a little bit wider, and then we irritate it. That all gets together and turns into fabric. And this is like, I think it's always a magical part. And after this, when we work more on our fabrics, it shrinks. So what can we do using this raw fiber? This, I don't want to say raw. Raw is the one which came right from the wool, which unwashed, which is like smells. It's full of lanolin, which I love to work with. But this is not. This is a process. Again, this is top. It's called like top or roving. It doesn't have to be in this condition, by the way. We also use, now I want to talk about material, I guess. Okay, never mind. So this we call roving. You can see that all hair here is combed and aligned in one direction, okay? So it can come in one color, or it can be blended. So you can see it's blended. It's a few different colors. It can be even thinner. Usually we go by microns when we talk about wool. This one I'm using more for my most project is 19 microns. It's very thin and very nice fiber. There is a even thinner ones, goes down to 14 and goes up to whatever, like 50. Like for example, this comes from American farm, and this is Corriedale. There are lots of different types and breeds, but the whole idea is how they process the wool and what they do with it. So this is also roving. So there's another way how they process the fiber. It's called bat. When they don't really come in and don't turn it like into one direction, so it's more like that. So if I see it through the light, I can see that all the hair is going like zigzaggy. It's all messed up, and it's a great material to do other things, and just for different use. Every material like we use for different purposes. Okay. Well, so what can we do from our wool? And we can do lots of things using our felting techniques. So typically you think about garments and clothes, which is true. So something like that is called nanofelting. There's nanofelting when wool meet his favorite friend silk, and they bond together. It's like a bunch of silk scarves bonded with wool fiber top. We can press wool and form it and make any kind of shape we want using molds. We'll make a hat, and or we can make slippers. It's my socks for my children. Wool we can make warm clothes, interesting shapes, garments, mittens, fingers. This has lots of decor here. You can see it's made from 18 different types of fiber here. Garments like purses. This is owl. of course, different scarves. Of course, home decor, pillows, upside down, wall hangers, and even art. Believe it or not, that this is made from wool. It's not painting. I'm calling wool painting. And of course, I love all kind of needle felted items, like the toys,